On April 5th, more than 750 union members gathered in Middletown to hear Wisconsin public service workers share firsthand what their lives have been like for the past 3 years. They came to hear about the assault on the middle class in a state where a newly elected governor and legislators in 2011 passed Act 10, which stripped collective bargaining rights for workers, and defunded local schools and communities, which gutted vital public services for working families.
This is a pivotal moment for the soul of the United States of America, and let me tell you why. There are people who want to roll back everything that's been fought for and everything that has been won over the last 100 years. Actually, scratch that. Over the last 230 years. There are people that want to go back to the rugged individualism that existed in this country at the founding of the Republic. And we've made tremendous progress in the United States of America. And we have a lot of brave men and women here today from the state of Wisconsin that stood up to this exact kind of bullying, and I'd like to recognize them for a moment and welcome them to the city of Middletown.
What I heard here today frightens me. I've been keeping up with this nonsense ever since the election in Wisconsin. It frightens me because it's just a matter of one election until we're all where Wisconsin is today if we don't get busy and take this very seriously. Our lives are at stake. If you don't have a job, you really don't have a life. You really don't. So what I learned here today just pumps me up more to get out there and try and make the people, not just my union members, accountable for getting out, voting, and making sure that the middle class, as we once knew it, continue to be the middle class and have jobs and union protection.
Just for today, we are Wisconsin. Because we need to see, we need to feel it, we need to understand what they went through. And if we take the energy we get from the end of the day today, and if we move that energy forward, I can guarantee you this, that come November, come that Wednesday after that busy Tuesday, we will not be Wisconsin. We will be Connecticut, we will be stronger, but it starts here today.
I'm here today because I've been observing what's been happening across the country, and I'm very fearful that we will become a Wisconsin. And so when I saw the title of this, We Are Not Wisconsin, I wanted to get some information to make sure we don't become a Wisconsin.
Without unions, I'm just going to point out a few, just a few. Without unions, we wouldn't have weekends, right? Without unions, we wouldn't have paid vacation, FMLA, sick leave, Social Security, minimum wage, the Civil Rights Act, Title VII. We wouldn't have an 8-hour work day. We wouldn't have child labor laws. We wouldn't have OSHA. We wouldn't have a 40-hour work week. Just to name a few, we wouldn't have employer health insurance. We wouldn't have collective bargaining rights. We wouldn't have wrongful termination. We wouldn't have whistleblower protections. Without unions, we wouldn't have sexual harassment laws. We wouldn't have privacy laws. We wouldn't have paternity leave or pregnancy leave. We wouldn't have public education for our children. You see, without unions, we wouldn't have the Equal Pay Act of 1963 or 2011. See, without unions, we wouldn't have the levels of equality that we have today. We wouldn't have the prosperity in this country that we have today.
Can I have the Wisconsin folks come up and sit at the table here?
So, without trying to get too technical, what Act 10 really did was make everything, and by that I mean everything, an illegal subject of bargaining. So, in your current contracts, I'm going to guess you've got something in there, some seniority provisions, whether it's for layoff, whether it's to select vacation, whether it's to select your work assignment. Well, in Wisconsin, that's all now illegal. That's all gone. That's now all gone. And what happened was, and this is actually where it really got crazy and what I was intimately involved in, once the law went into effect, all over the state, at every school district, at every municipality, in their charter ordinances or their rules of governance, when it talked about stuff like pay and vacation and sick leave, it always said refer to the collective bargaining agreement. Well, those now went out the window with the snap of a fingers, with the stroke of his pen. So the way it worked was that they couldn't, if you had a contract in place, they stayed in place until they expired. But once it expired, or if when he signed the law, you were without a current contract, everything's gone.
Yeah, we were very disturbed to hear about what happened in Wisconsin about the unions, members losing their rights, and especially with the governor, was supposed to be a servant of the people. Then how could you deny the people, their rights? Nobody elects anybody to deny their rights. They elect you to protect their rights and fight for their rights and make sure that they have, everything that people can have for prosperity and future and building and lifelong successes.
Well, the first union that I ever joined was actually in Wisconsin. It was the TAAA, which was a union of teaching assistants at the University of Wisconsin, the first union of TAs in the United States. And the fact that it was formed in Wisconsin indicates what Wisconsin used to be like before this whole attack by Scott Walker and the others. And now I'm in Connecticut, and I want to make darn sure that that does not happen here in Connecticut.
I think every single one of us that stood at the Capitol has a story about their own personal battle, about not wanting our husband to find out that we signed recall papers because he might leave me. Knowing that you can't talk to your father. You simply can't talk to him anymore because the minute you start talking about work, all hell breaks loose. And families have been torn apart. You have to understand that. You have to understand that.
We have to take ownership of this fight because the middle class in this country is dying little by little. We all see what happened in 2008, that a state employee, all different labor unions, private sector were blamed for the crisis of the economy, but we find out who really was the real cause of the crisis, and it was not us. It was not the middle class, it was not the poor people of this country, it was the 1%.
In our last election, the governor's race was decided by less than 6,000 votes. And there's a bunch of very rich people in this country who are taking advantage of the fact that we don't have an active voter population anymore, especially when it comes to protecting workers' rights. And they're taking advantage of that and using that to elect people who are going to take away those rights.
Well, I'm basically going to let them know that there's no excuses, and they just need to stop it, because the people in Wisconsin lost everything because they were sleeping. And we need to stop sleeping. We need to get up and save what we have so we can fight for more. That's what I'm going to continue to tell them.
One of my fears that I have in Connecticut is that if that same thing were to take place, there is a mentality along law enforcement and fire service that this won't happen to us. And it's it's a curse in some way, shape, or form that police and fire say, it's not going to happen to us. It'll never happen to us. They always need safety. They always need protection. They always need fire services. So I have a challenge to rally my members in order to make them aware that this could happen. It happened in other states. It could happen in Connecticut. Just because police and fire were exempted at this point in Wisconsin does not mean that Scott Walker will not go after them next year.
I can talk about what went on in Wisconsin a lot. I was up there almost every day of the protest, but I want to share something that I learned last night when the guys from AFL-CIO took us out for some pizza last night. We did introductions, and I find out this person is a staff person, and he's the majority leader of the legislature. Then I come in here this morning, and I meet another guy, he's a legislator from, I think, SEIU or one of your, I'm going, why am I even here? I'd be living in his backyard, mowing his lawn, being out there working, making sure he stays in office, because if you got somebody like him, that's a stopgap to stop this stuff. Sure, all politicians won't do everything you won't want them to, but I think you got two guys that'll be in there as a good stopgap measure, because all we needed was one vote, and I wouldn't be sitting here, I wouldn't be sitting here.
I don't think Scott Walker cares. I don't think the Koch brothers care. Their issue is money, and it's hard to fight money. We don't have the money, but we have the people power, and we need to put it together. We need to build a fort for this battle. And you need to talk to everybody you can, because we cannot give up. We have to stand up, and we have to fight back.
And so we have to wake up, and so we can only do that one member at a time. So I think that the one-to-one communications with our membership is not only needed, it's demanded and it's required. And so if we cannot do that, then we've already failed.
Well, I showed this picture because that's probably one of the days that we were out there. And I had a sign on, I had my green AFSCME shirt on, and we're going around the Capitol, and that day they announced the attendance was almost 250,000 people. And there were stages, the inside of the Capitol, right in the center, you had University of Wisconsin students beating on drums, and everybody singing around, even talking about it now. I feel like I did that day, the hair on my arm standing up, I'm getting the goosebumps, and I'm walking around and I'm smiling, and I see a gentleman in a red shirt, and I said, brother, this is the absolutely most amazing thing. We're not going to take this anymore. We finally said enough is enough. That we're going to stand up and we're going to turn this back. This is the proudest moment I've ever had in the labor movement. Isn't this great? He looks over at me, and he was wearing a red shirt, and he says, where are you from? I said, oh, I'm from Connecticut, AFSCME member. He said, well, I'm an educator. I've been in the union almost 30 years. I could see why you think this is a great moment for you in your history of being a union member. But I'm telling you, it's one of the saddest for me. And it's the saddest for me, and it was talked about at this stage here, because in July, in August, in September, October, and even up to the last few days, I was begging my members, begging, turn out, we got to do something for this election. It's at risk. The governor could win. We could lose the House. All the reasons why. And I heard I have a ball game, my aunt's birthday party. I heard every reason in the world. So let me tell you this, Mr. AFSCME from Connecticut, it's too late. We're fighting for something that I'm not sure we're ever going to get back. And the reason I'm so sad is because we can only blame ourselves. So that was the most powerful story to me, and I bring it to all of you, because don't let that be us. Don't let us wake up that Wednesday after the Tuesday in November and be like them now, to where it's what could have been, what we should have done.
I just think communication is key. I think if you talk to your family, you talk to your husband, you talk with your parents, your brothers, your sisters, and just really communicate about what's going on and how much it's going to affect everything, I think maybe they'll see your point of view.
We all just come here to warn you. You have to understand that there is a difference between the two people running for governor. You have to understand that. Don't take your eye off the ball for a second like we did in Wisconsin, or your world will be turned upside down and it will be sold to the highest bidder. Do your homework, and for heaven's sake, agree on a candidate and back them. Just back them. You must understand that they will not be perfect. There is no perfect candidate, and people in politics, they say things that we're not going to agree on, things that will boil our blood, but that doesn't mean that we can't agree on a candidate, because there is a difference between the two people running for the governor of Connecticut. They will not be perfect, but that can't stop you. You have to do the door-to-door. You have to volunteer at your phone bank, and you have to donate what you can, because it is a David versus Goliath here. Because your jobs, your communities, and your students and families will depend on all of your efforts. You have to understand that the very soul of your state is at stake.
I don't think we need to take a step backwards. They need to step forward. We need to help them do that. And I think that's what this whole movement's about, is to make everybody come together as one. So therefore, if that's the case, that I'm bringing my local co-workers up to par. I'm going to bring this message back. Everybody has to start the fight. It has to start today.
But bottom line is, what happens up in Hartford affects
you back home. It affects regular folks working in our communities, in our towns. I'm going to continue to fight as hard as I can for my constituents, the members in my district, but they've got to get out and fight for themselves as well. They got me elected, appreciate it, let's get it done, and I'm fired up by the message and the strength that we heard today.
When you attack one, you attack everyone. I mean, we're part of our communities. We're nurses, we take care of the public, but we also are the public. We also have issues. We're healthcare workers. There isn't any person in this country who's not had a healthcare issue at some point or another. So if you start breaking down people in their wages, in their working conditions, and start taking away their healthcare, things like that, you break down the entire society, and that's not going to be good for anyone.